everyone. Welcome to our deep dive into Unstoppable by Nick Vujicic.
Yeah, this book is, it's pretty incredible.
It is, I mean, just the fact that Nick was born with no limbs, with tetraamelia syndrome.
Right. And he doesn't just survive, he thrives.
Yeah, and he turns it all into this, motivational powerhouse kind of book. But it's like
It's practical advice.
super practical, yeah.
He's not just saying, like, think positive and it'll all be good.
Right. He actually gives you steps to take to, improve your mindset and your outlook and everything.
Like it's a toolkit.
It is, yeah. It's a toolkit for life.
Mm-hmm.
And, he dives right in chapter 1.
Overcoming hopelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overcoming hopelessness. He doesn't shy away from it,
No, he's really honest about how tough it was.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the message of hope so powerful.
You're right, because so many motivational books, they kind of skip over the hard parts.
Yeah, it's all like sunshine and rainbows.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
Nick is like, no, this is the reality of it. This is what I went through.
And then he's able to say, hey, but there is hope.
Right.
So let's talk about that hope, because he has this great quote.
Oh, yeah. If you can't get a miracle, become one.
Yeah, so how does he actually sort of guide people to become that miracle?
Well, I think a big part of it is faith.
Okay.
And I know that's a word that can be kind of loaded for some people.
For sure.
But I think for Nick, it's more about finding something to believe in, something better than yourself.
Okay, so not necessarily like religion, but
Not necessarily, no.
more like a belief system.
Yeah, like a belief system that can kind of pull you through.
That gives you strength.
Exactly. And he talks about how faith for him wasn't just passive.
Oh, interesting.
It was about taking action. It was about serving others. It was about focusing on what he could control.
So it's like a verb.
It's a verb.
It's not just sitting there and hoping.
No, you got to do something with it.
You got to take action.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing a connection here, because another key idea in the book is embracing your uniqueness.
Oh.
Right. And it would be so easy for Nick to focus on what he doesn't have.
Oh, for sure.
But instead he talks about, turning those perceived limitations into opportunities.
And that's where that quote comes in. You should never live according to what you lack.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. So how do you put that into practice?
Yeah.
Well, Nick talks about identifying your strengths and your talents and then using them.
And actually using them.
Yeah, not just like, oh, yeah, I'm good at that.
Right.
Like actually use them to contribute to the world. And, in chapter 2, he talks about finding his calling as a motivational speaker.
So our limitations can actually lead us to our purpose.
Exactly. It's like this weird kind of roundabout way of finding what you're meant to do.
It's a powerful reframing.
It is.
And he actually, he walks the walk. He's not just talking about it.
No, he's living proof.
He gives all these examples of how he's built his career and his life around these ideas.
And he really emphasizes that, finding your purpose, it's not always this big dramatic thing.
Yeah.
It can be about finding meaning in the everyday stuff.
In those little moments.
Yeah, and the connections you build.
Yeah.
In the ways you impact the people around you.
And that brings us to action.
Yes, because it's so easy to read these books and be like, yeah, this is great.
And then do nothing.
And then do nothing.
So how does Nick bridge that gap?
Well, he has a whole chapter on building strong relationships.
Yeah.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, and it's not just about, feeling good. It's about recognizing that we need those connections.
Especially when things are tough.
Especially when things are tough, because sometimes you just need somebody to talk to.
Someone to believe in you.
Yeah, someone who's got your back.
And Nick's really open about, his own struggles with depression.
Yeah, and how therapy helped him.
And I think that's so important for someone so successful to talk about mental health.
It really normalizes it. It makes it okay to ask for help.
So he talks about building relationships, getting support, finding your purpose. But what about setbacks?
Ah, yes, because life is full of them. Right, it's not all going to be smooth sailing.
So chapter 4 is all about turning setbacks into comebacks.
That sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it?
Well, he tells a lot of stories from his own life and from other people who've been through some pretty incredible stuff.
Like what?
Well, there's this one story about a man who lost everything in a fire.
Wow.
And then he became a successful entrepreneur.
So it's like those setbacks can actually become the foundation.
Yeah, for something even better.
Like it's not about avoiding setbacks, but about how you respond to them.
Exactly. And he talks about this what now mentality.
Okay.
So instead of dwelling on the why me,
Right.
it's about, okay, this happened. What do I do now?
So you're shifting your focus.
Yeah, you're looking for the lesson. You're looking for the opportunity.
So it's about mindset.
It's about seeing those setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and
To
grow.
adapt.
To adapt, exactly.
So you're not trying to prevent them from happening.
Yeah.
You're just changing your relationship to them.
Yeah. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He says those setbacks, they can be painful,
Yeah, for sure.
but it's how you respond that really defines you.
And this reminds me of his whole idea about turning pain into purpose.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just about surviving those tough times. It's about using them to fuel your growth and maybe even help other people.
It's about finding meaning in those
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
And using that meaning to make a positive impact on the world.
And that's where his faith comes back in.
Oh, yeah, he has that great quote.
What is it?
Faith in action is love, and love in action is service.
So it's about taking action.
Yes.
It's about helping others.
Yes.
It's about making a difference.
Exactly.
So even if you're not religious, you can still connect with that idea.
Oh,
You can find something to believe in, something that gives you purpose,
Hmm.
something that motivates you to make a difference.
Yeah, and that's what makes this book so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just about overcoming your own challenges.
It's about using your experiences to empower others. So we've covered hope, faith, embracing uniqueness, turning setbacks into comebacks, and now this idea of turning pain into purpose.
It's a lot.
It is, but there's
Yeah.
like this common thread running through it all, right?
There is. And I think it's about recognizing your own inner strength and your resilience.
Mm-hmm.
It's about believing in your ability to overcome challenges and achieve your goals.
And then using those experiences, both the good and the bad, to make a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely. And we'll be exploring these ideas even further as we continue our deep dive into Unstoppable. So stay tuned for more insights and actionable advice from Nick Vujicic.
It's amazing how he manages to weave in all these stories. Yeah.
Of other people who've overcome some crazy stuff.
Right, and they show you that, resilience, it doesn't look the same for everybody.
Exactly. It takes all different forms.
Do you remember the story about the woman who was born with a facial deformity?
Yeah, she was bullied so badly.
Awful.
But she became a model. Yeah.
A model and an advocate?
And she's like, this is me. This is who I am.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. And I think that's what Unstoppable is all about,
It's not that bad things don't happen to you.
Right.
It's how you choose to deal with them.
It's that choice.
Yeah.
You can let it break you, or you can use it to become something amazing.
Exactly.
And Nick talks a lot about mindset.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just about putting on a happy face.
No, it's deeper than that.
And pretending everything's fine.
It's a practice.
It is.
It's something you have to work at.
And it sounds like a big part of that is finding your why.
Yes. Having a purpose.
Yeah, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
He actually asks readers to ask themselves some pretty tough questions.
What
motivates you? What are you passionate about? What impact do you want to make on the world?
Whoa. Heavy stuff. It is heavy, but I can see how having those answers, even if they change over time, could really give you that extra push when you're struggling.
It's like having that North Star,
Yeah.
guiding you through the storms.
And sometimes finding that why means taking a step back and really getting to know yourself.
Yes, self-reflection is so important.
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself about your strengths, your weaknesses, your values.
And figuring out what really matters to you.
Yeah.
And then making sure your actions align with those values.
And sometimes it's not just about what you want to do, but what you don't want to do.
Oh, that's interesting.
He talks about setting boundaries, learning to say no.
To things that drain you.
Yeah, that pull you away from your purpose.
So you can say yes to the things that matter.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got purpose, mindset, boundaries. Any other practical tips?
Well, he's big on goal setting.
Okay. But not in a rigid way.
No, not like you have to achieve this by this date or you're a failure.
Right, more setting goals that actually matter to you.
Yeah, that align with your values and your purpose.
And then breaking them down into smaller steps.
Yes. He's all about taking those small steps.
So you don't get overwhelmed by the big picture.
Exactly. Just focus on what you can do today, right now.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
It's that journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
And he says it's okay to stumble along the way.
Really?
He actually encourages it
Why?
because he sees mistakes as opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's not about being perfect.
No, it's about the process.
It's about trying things and maybe messing up and learning from it.
Exactly. And that's what builds resilience.
Because when you're not afraid to fail, you're more likely to take risks.
You have to try new things.
To grow.
To grow.
And that growth, that's a big part of what Unstoppable is all about, right?
It's not about reaching some destination.
It's about constantly evolving.
Yeah, becoming the best version of yourself,
And that often means pushing past your comfort zone.
which can be scary.
Terrifying.
So how do you deal with that fear?
Yeah, because fear can be so paralyzing.
Well, he says fear is natural.
Okay.
It's part of life.
It doesn't have to control you.
Exactly. He wants you to reframe it.
Oh.
Instead of seeing fear as a stop sign,
Okay.
see it as a signal that you're about to do something meaningful, something that's going to help you grow.
So it's like everything you want is on the other side of fear.
But how do you get to the other side?
Yeah, that's the question.
He says take action.
Even if it's just a tiny step.
Yeah, even a tiny step, because action creates momentum.
So you start moving and the fear starts to fade.
Hopefully.
So break those big, scary goals down into smaller, more manageable actions.
Yes, and celebrate those small wins.
Ooh, that's important.
It is, because when you acknowledge your progress, it keeps you motivated,
It builds your confidence.
and it makes you believe that you can achieve those bigger goals.
And that belief in yourself is so crucial.
And that's where self-compassion comes in,
Okay.
because you're going to hit setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of beating yourself up, be kind to yourself.
Give yourself a break.
Exactly.
Recognize that you're human.
You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay.
So self-compassion can actually help you be more resilient.
Because when you can forgive yourself and move on from those setbacks,
You don't get stuck.
you don't get stuck.
And that inner strength, that's what allows you to be unstoppable.
Right. It's about knowing that you have the power to overcome those challenges, to achieve your goals, to make a difference.
And sometimes tapping into that inner strength means asking for help.
Yes.
Nick's very open about how therapy helped him.
And he says that asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
It's a sign of strength
It takes courage to admit that you need support.
to be vulnerable.
And that vulnerability can actually strengthen your relationships.
Because when you open up and share your struggles, it creates a space for deeper connection.
And that connection can be so powerful.
Yeah, because it reminds you that you're not alone.
Right. And that there are people who care about you and want to see you succeed.
So that support system is so important.
He actually dedicates a whole chapter to gratitude. Yeah, he talks about how focusing on what you're thankful for can really shift your perspective.
It's like a counterbalance to that negativity bias.
Exactly. We tend to focus on the bad stuff.
Yeah.
But when you make an effort to notice the good things,
It changes things.
it does. And he gives you specific practices like keeping a gratitude journal or writing thank you notes.
I love that.
It's about actively cultivating gratitude.
So when you're focused on the good stuff,
You're less likely to get bogged down by the negative.
and that positive outlook can actually be contagious.
You can.
You know, you can inspire other people to be more grateful and more positive.
And that creates a more positive environment for everyone.
So you're helping yourself and you're helping the people around you.
Exactly.
And you know, one thing that really stood out to me was Nick's emphasis on service.
Yeah, he talks a lot about helping others
Because it's so easy to get caught up in your own problem.
and forget that there are other people who are struggling.
And when you shift your focus outwards,
It can help you gain perspective on your own challenges.
so helping others can actually help you.
It can.
And it doesn't have to be some big grand
Yeah,
gesture,
it could be something small.
like volunteering or donating or just helping someone out in your everyday life.
Yeah, just small acts of kindness.
And that reminds me of his quote, "Faith in action is love, and love in action is service."
It's about putting those values into practice.
And making a difference in the world.
Yeah. And that brings us back to this whole idea of being unstoppable.
It's not just about overcoming personal challenges.
It's about using your experiences to empower others.
and to make the world a better place.
Yeah, it's like he takes it to a whole other level.
It's not just about, you know, like achieving your own goals and being successful,
It's about using that success to make a difference.
to give back,
Yeah. And it reminds me of what we talked about earlier.
about how limitations can become strengths.
Yeah. And Nick is like the perfect example.
He was born with no limbs.
Right. Something that most people would consider like an impossible obstacle.
And he's turned it into, you know, a way to inspire millions of people.
It's pretty amazing.
It really makes you rethink, you know, how we define limitations.
Yeah. What if what we see as weaknesses are actually like the keys to our greatest growth?
It's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah. And I think that's where the title Unstoppable comes from.
Yeah.
It's not about never facing challenges.
Right.
It's about having that inner strength to keep going no matter what.
And we talked about positive thinking.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so much more than just like, you know, putting on a happy face.
Right. It's not about pretending everything's okay.
It's about making a conscious choice
To focus on the good,
to look for the silver linings.
even when things are tough.
And it sounds like faith plays a big role in that.
Yeah. Faith in yourself, faith in your abilities, faith in something bigger than yourself,
It's about believing that you can overcome those challenges.
and that you're capable of achieving your goals.
And that belief can be so powerful.
You can inspire others.
It can create a ripple effect. And that reminds me of that quote, be the change you want to see in the world.
Nick's definitely living that out,
He's not just talking about it, he's doing it.
and he's inspiring others to do the same.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Unstoppable, what are some key takeaways that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Well, I think the biggest one is that being unstoppable doesn't mean you never fall down.
Right.
It's about getting back up stronger and more determined.
It's about using those challenges as opportunities to learn and grow,
And it's about recognizing that we all have that potential.
to be unstoppable.
Yeah, in our own unique way.
It's about finding our strengths,
Yeah.
embracing our journey, and taking action.
Even when it's hard.
And remembering that we're not alone.
We have each other.
We can support each other and lift each other up.
Create a world where everyone feels empowered to overcome their challenges and achieve their dreams.
And that's what makes Unstoppable so powerful. It's not just about Nick's story.
Right.
It's about the potential that exists in all of us.
We all have a story to tell, a journey to share, and something unique to offer the world.
And this book gives us the tools and the inspiration to tap into that potential and create a life that is truly meaningful.
Yeah.
So listener, we've explored some pretty incredible ideas from Unstoppable today, but the real journey starts now. What will you do to become unstoppable in your own life? How will you turn your challenges into opportunities and use your experiences to make a positive impact? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.